AMD up first. Okay, listen. AMD. We're now up $82,000 in the public account on AMD. Unbelievable move for the stock because you got to consider 3.5 months ago, I was down significantly on AMD, right? Significantly. And so now to be sitting on an $82,000 gain alone in the public account, it shows you how quick things can switch in the stock market, right? And the issue I see time and time again when we get something like what happened in March and April, right? Major downdraft. I mean, if you look at that downdraft from February 19th through the second week of April, it was significant. We had a major correction that was getting close to being a full-on crash in the market. The NASDAQ was down like 25% from the highs. When you start talking about if you go over 25% and start approaching 30% plus, you're talking about you've gone through a full-on crash then at that point in time, right? And that's what we are approaching. And so people take this approach of like, I have time to wait on stocks like AMD. I have time to wait, right? AMD got all the way down to the 70s in that April crash. The 70s. It's basically doubled up its price since then, right? And they take this approach of like, they think they have all the time in the world and they think they know when, with the exact moment for the market's going to bottom and like, that's when I'm going to buy AMD stock. Folks, it doesn't work like that. You've got to, if you see a great opportunity in front of yourself, you've got to take advantage of that opportunity then. You can't like wait and be like, maybe in a few months, that's when it's going to bottom. It's going to go down $30. That's where I'm going to buy. No, doesn't work like that. If you get a great opportunity, I mean, that's just pure greed. AMD stock from the highs it reached in 2024 to the lows it was at back in April. Do people realize that stock was down 60+%? One of the best companies in the world, you're getting at a 60% plus discount. And yet the stock market's the one place that people say, oh, you know what? I don't need it right now. It's like if you were doing 60% discounts on anything else, people would gladly take that. Pair of shoes, people are like, oh, 60% discount. Yes, let me go buy that. 60% discount at the food store. Okay. 60% on a vacation. People would be like, oh, sign me up. I'll be on the trip. But yeah, 60% on a stock, one of the greatest companies in the world. And people are like, no, I'll wait on it. Okay, wait. And watch not make money. And think about if I took this stance over the past 16, 17 years in the market of, seeing great discounts, because the amount of discounts I've gotten in the past 16, 17 years in the stock market, right, is ridiculous. Imagine if I took that stance of like, you know what, I'm going to wait it. I'm going to wait to see. Imagine, when I got in the market 08, 09, we were in like a 50% crash. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to wait to get in the market or start investing till 70% crash because it might go even worse. What are we talking about here, right? And that's the issue. If you want to get to the sort of lifestyle, the sort of place you want to get, when you see a great opportunity in front of yourself, you take advantage of that opportunity. You don't just like wait it out and be like, I might go lower. No, because you know what? If you were that good at predicting the market, like, in terms of these short-term moves, like, you would already have positioned yourself properly for AMD. You've already been betting on downside puts, right? And you already known that AMD's bottoming there. So to be taking a stance of like, I got a 60% plus discount on one of the greatest companies in the world, I'm not going to take advantage of that, even though the valuation model, if you understand how to run valuation models, you could look at AMD a few months ago and be like, this is a steal deal. Like, this is giving me free money, and not just free money, but like a money compounding machine. And that's where running valuation models come in, because that's where you can put the math behind it. It's not just a feeling of like, oh, Lisa Sue's talking about this might be big. No. It's running the math. It's running the valuation models. And we got all that on 1000X stocks, right? We got the advanced models. We got the intermediate models. We got the model all laid out. All you got to do is adjust numbers, right? We got the analyst estimates there, all that. And then you can begin to understand, dude, AMD in the 70s, like, are you kidding me? That's a freaking joke, right? And, AMD and even 140 is still looking very, very good. And we'll speak about that. So what's going on here in regards to AMD? Well, Melius upgrades AMD on inference potential. Wonder where we heard a lot of inference talk on AMD. Maybe this channel. Melius Research upgraded AMD to buy from hold, citing its potential in inferencing. Melius analyst Benjamin who also upped his price target to $175 from $110, said even though shares have gained about 25% year to date, he has increased conviction that investors will gain more confidence in AMD's GPU prospects throughout the year. Quote, investors are about to envision even bigger GPU figures in 2026 through 2028, given a substantial surge in inferencing where investing in AMD's platform seems to be more attractive for hyperscalers and sovereigns. Another analyst also raised their price target to, they raised their rating on the stock to a strong buy from a buy. They also upped their price target to 165 from 125. The stock right now is about 143. So both these guys basically are saying there's significant upside to AMD shares from here, right? Which, are their price targets realistic for the next 12 months on AMD? 165, 175? My personal opinion is I think they're low. I think they're pretty darn low, just to be quite frank with you guys. Now, if you watch the videos I put on the main channel last couple days, I'm so used to recording videos all the time that I forget it's been like 8 days since I recorded a video on the main channel. The last time I was recording videos on the main channel, okay, if you go back and watch those videos, I explain in those videos exactly what was going to happen with AMD stock, right? First, you get the experienced retail investors to come in, people like myself and some of you guys probably out there and other folks that have been investing in the market for a long time. We see a great opportunity. We understand what the future holds for AMD, and we go ahead, we start making investments into it, right? And we usually help set a kind of floor for a stock that was going through a tough time like AMD, right? Then management comes in with their numbers, they come in with their guidance, things start looking a little rosier, a little better, and you start to get some analysts upgrading the stock, which is exactly what we're seeing, like just what happened on Friday, right? You get this analyst to come out, this analyst to come out. Oh, we're now slapping a strong buy on the stock. We're now taking our price target to 165. We're now taking our price target to 175, right? From there, you start getting some hedge funds to start buying in the stock, like, because they start reading these analyst notes. Hedge funds are lazy. A lot of these hedge fund managers, or as I always tell you guys, they're more focused on trying to keep close relationships with their very best clients rather than, doing the research on understanding why AMD's MI350 is a big deal or why MI400 is a big deal. Those guys are on a whole different plane. They're looking at a lot of these analysts and what they're saying, and some of them say, you know what? I like what this analyst is saying about AMD. It seems like it's got momentum, seems like it's got a good future. They start buying in, right? Causes a price to go up. And the more all this happens, the more it starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy of like price targets get hit, then analysts have to upgrade them, right? Then they get even more bullish. It's like a whole compounding effect. Then you get more analysts to come in and upgrade, right? The ones that maybe weren't the early ones to kind of change their stance. They start coming over, upping their price targets, upping their buys to strong buys, their holds to buys, right? And next thing you know, you got all of Wall Street buying in. That's similar to like what has happened with Nvidia last few years, right? If you look at what happened to Nvidia last 2 or 3 years, exactly the situation, right? Experienced retail found it first. Then some analysts started to come in and be like, hey, I think Nvidia's got some good things going on. Some hedge funds start buying in, right? Then you got more analysts, and then, as a company just executes, it just is a self-fulfilling prophecy essentially, and that's what we're basically witnessing right now in regards to AMD, and you're going to see us a lot more over the next 1 to 2 years specifically, and that's where the biggest moves are made for these stocks, right? Now, additionally, Loop Capital came out on Friday, and they raised their price target on Nvidia to 250 from 175, which is a huge raise of the price target, huge raise. The analysts cited a belief that hyperscale and AI factor spending could reach $2 trillion by 2028. The brokerage believes Nvidia could hit $6 trillion market cap on the view the company essentially has a monopoly in critical tech and strong pricing power. This just helps the positive momentum around AMD, right? Just positivity. Nvidia's got this going on, right? AMD's got this going on. We know these hyperscalers have years of big spend ahead of them. And so the numbers are going to be there for quite a while, right? After 2028, who knows? We'll see, right? And obviously, Nvidia has got the law of large numbers catching up with them, obviously, over this next, 2026, 2027. AMD doesn't have to deal with that. AMD doesn't have the law of large numbers catching up with them. They're just going to be able to power through this. And so that is something else to kind of keep in mind in regards to the difference between NVIDIA and AMD, right? Now, additionally, AMD, this stock is down 10% the past year. And I show you that because you think about this stock is around doubled roughly from those lows back 3 months ago or so, right? But the stock is still down about 10% in the past year. So we haven't even got to the stock to be positive yet on a year basis. That's still coming. So you got to understand, like, this is very early innings in regards to this whole AMD move. I know you guys see it and it's like, wow, like, look at the stock starting to make so much money. This is early. This stock is negative 10% on a year basis. Come on, man. And then, by the way, as we get closer over here, it's going to look even worse on a negative year-over-year basis, right? So where's AMD stock headed from here? I'll tell you where AMD stock's headed from here. It's headed to all-time highs. All-time highs for AMD around 208, 210, somewhere around there roughly. That was reached, if I recall, in the first quarter of 2024. That was kind of the fake out. And I wasn't invested in AMD at that particular time, but some people were getting hyped about AMD. They thought AMD was ready for prime time. It was not ready for prime time at that time. So people got this like fake out. They started buying AMD stock left and right, 140, 160, 180, 200 plus. And then they didn't realize like AMD wasn't ready for the prime time. So they got their timing totally off, and that's how AMD got a bad rep about like advanced money destroyer and advanced money disintegrator and all those sorts of things, because people didn't get the timing right. The time to be buying AMD is over the last few months, because the time that people were excited about back at early 2024, that's now finally coming here in the middle of this year. And so now MI350's gone into production. We're going to start to see that huge in the next quarter numbers. And then we're going to continue to see those orders just pile in over the next basically year. And then probably sometime around this time next year, MI400 comes out. We'll see like when they end up launching that. My guess is MI350 is going to have crazy momentum. So my guess is MI400, they'll probably not launch that till mid-year. But we'll see. Maybe they come out with it earlier. But when MI400 hits, you got to understand, that's a whole different trajectory of the company at that particular time. Because when Lisa Su talks about MI400, she says things like 10x performance over what you had just seen earlier this year with the early MI300 series. So the orders for the MI400 are going to be ridiculous. The MI350 is going to be insane, but you haven't seen anything yet until we see the 400 series. And so you just got to understand, like, we're coming for all-time highs. Now, is every single day, every single week, every single month going to be straight up for AMD? No, it doesn't have to be. But the moral of the story is we're coming for all-time highs. And then we're going to bust right through those babies. And then people are going to be like, and I understand, man, there's a lot of people that sold out, especially a lot of Wall Street funds, probably even some retail that sold out as this stock just went down and down and down. They got the timing wrong. I don't know what else to say. And this happens with some of these stocks sometimes. People get too excited too fast. Tesla was a good example of that many years ago. So actually, Tesla's been a great example of this twice. People got way too excited about Tesla around like 2000, this was around like 2014, 2015. People were so excited about EVs, the future, blah, blah, blah. Like Elon Musk, oh my gosh, Tesla's brilliant. What ended up happening is Tesla stock ran like insane. And then what happened after that? Tesla was a stagnant stock for like 5 or 6 years. And then what else did we witness? That Tesla go through that same exact cycle again. If you look at Tesla stock on almost a 5-year basis now, but certainly on a 4.5 year basis, you're either break even, you're down after holding that stock for 4+ years. And soon it'll be 5 years, right? And probably even going on 6 years. And so you're going to understand, if you get your timing significantly off and you pay too much for a company at the wrong time, you could be sitting on a stock for years of doing nothing, essentially. AMD here, the timing's been perfect if you've been buying it the last few months. If you've been buying AMD the last, we could just say, if you've been buying AMD in 2025, your timing, impeccable. Absolutely impeccable. You either lucked into that or you know what you were doing and boom. Either way, money, right? One of the things that gives me such great conviction about AMD, like let's say, Am I planning on selling AMD stock anytime soon? Seeing how much momentum it has, seeing that next thing you know, we'll be talking about all-time highs for AMD. Am I planning on selling my AMD anytime soon? The answer is absolutely not. Why would I? MI350 is just going into production. MI400 is going to be insane. Then they're going to come out with an MI 450 chip. That's going to be insane. Google's going to be making more money than ever over the next few years. Meta's going to be making more money than ever for the next few years. Amazon's going to be making more money than ever. Microsoft's going to be making more money than ever. So the biggest customers are looking good. So why do I need to rush out of AMD anytime soon? And when it comes to this company, I got a picture of Lisa Su here for a reason. I own a company where I literally have one of the best CEOs in the world running it. Do not forget, when shortly after Lisa Su took over this company, this was a $2 Chuck stock, $2 a share. $2 a share. It's $143. And before you know it, we'll be talking about this stock's going to be back over 200. And shortly after she took it over, it was a $2 Chuck. So, seeing what Lisa Su has pulled off over the last decade in regards to stock price, in regards to the revenue of the company, the margins, the profits, the positioning, the employee force, I feel pretty comfortable. Now, the next thing you got to say, do we have valuation problems on AMD? So the first thing you got to understand about AMD is they're likely, my guess is very highly likely, going to come in and smash analyst estimates for the next 2 years. That's my guess. Or at least the next, we can call it, year and a half. There will be a point in time when AMD eventually, the numbers start getting so great that analysts will essentially be in a situation where they'll start to get like ahead of the stock. But that's a long time away. Like, we're still probably a year and a half to 2 years away from that stage of AMD. I mean, the earliest, maybe a year. We can call it that. So when you look at AMD's forward P, 2-year forward P, understand they're probably going to come in and smash numbers. And so it's probably going to be way better than this. And so when you look at AMD at a 41 forward P, understand it's probably lower than that. But given what AMD's growth rate should be, that's not even high. Even if it was at 41, that's not high given what AMD's growth rates are. When you look at a 2-year forward P, under 20 for this company, understand that's low, very low. They're likely going to come in with much better earnings per share than analysts have over the next couple of years. And even if it was 17, given the growth rates of the company and the positioning, like, this is not bad at all.
How would you like access to all my best course curriculums? My Becoming Master of the Stock Market course, my Stock Market Investing Mastery course, my Stock Options Mastery course, my Millionaire Playbook. How would you like access to all my best courses, as well as the ability to have access to my 6- and 7-figure plus Discord community, where we're constantly keeping in touch with each other, talking about what's going on in the market? How would you like exclusive weekly videos from me? How would you like the ability to see what stocks I'm buying and selling in my $2 million plus Fidelity account? If that all sounds pretty interesting to you, apply to join my private group. That is going to be linked in the description area down there. You can click on that, fill out an application, and go ahead, hop on a call with Andre. Andre will walk you through the whole process. He'll walk you through the whole group, and you can go ahead and join us in there. Once again, the link for that is in the description area.
Alrighty, next up here, Microsoft.
You're seeing their shares, Microsoft, they're down about 0.5%. News came out this morning that they're laying off roughly 9,000 employees. Now, while that cut is less than 4% of its global workforce, you have to put it in context with the other cuts it's made over the course of the past year, including the 6,000 that was announced back in May. And then when you compare it to the other tech layoffs this year, it is the largest workforce reduction yet. Our Steve Kovac is here to discuss more on just what it means for...
So there's two reasons that big tech are so, big tech in general is so excited about AI. The one is obvious. They're going to hope to make way more money from AI, right? Way more money. Cool. The second reason, that's a hidden reason, not a lot of people realize why big tech is so excited about what is going on with AI. You know what it is? It's keeping your costs in check. When it comes to these companies, we know they employ massive workforces, and we know their workforces are extremely expensive. These workforces are filled with massive amounts of engineers. Could be hardware engineers, software engineers, right? A lot of these people, their comp packages, not even for super high level. Their comp packages are several $100,000. And these are not like the high level people. The high level people that are engineers or have comp packages, you're talking $1 million plus. There's levels, okay? So if these companies can save immense amounts of money over the next 10, 20 years by not having to hire the way they had to hire over the past 20 years, whoo, Like, we're going to talk about these companies will emerge way more profitable than what we've already seen, which a lot of people look at these companies and they're like, this is like, we never could imagine companies could have these sorts of net margins. If you think the net margins are high now, wait to see these companies' net margins 3, 5, 10 years from now. You're going to see net margins that you just like, I can't even believe they're this high. Like, how are they this high? That's what you're going to see play out here in regards to these sorts of companies, right?
One of the top 3 biggest companies in America and maybe the world at this point.
And I'll give you even more context here. So 15,000-ish so far layoffs this year at Microsoft. Wow. That's not even their biggest layoff. The biggest layoff was 18,000 back in 2014 or 15 when they basically got rid of the Nokia acquisition and let go all of those employees. So that was kind of a special thing. But it's approaching that level of, and what Microsoft tells us is this isn't targeted at one specific group or one specific type of employee. It's not performance-based. This is mostly targeting, or in a large part targeting, middle managers, something we've heard so much from the big tech companies over the last couple of years, making things more efficient and so forth. One thing not mentioned, at least so far, is artificial intelligence and the role that plays in there. Now, we've heard something like, people are going to be asked to use more technology and make themselves more efficient that way. But as far as artificial intelligence, I don't even think it's good enough to replace middle managers yet. But we have heard from Microsoft up to 30% of the code written at Microsoft is being written by artificial intelligence.
Bang.
And as far as some divisions we're hearing that are getting hit, gaming is a big one. There's a lot of chatter going on right now. Some big games and projects have been canceled. Xbox has not exactly been a huge growth story after they made that big Activision acquisition a couple years ago.
Oh, hit the nail on the head there. Hit the nail on the head. Okay, listen. I'm going to date myself here. Okay, listen. I used to own a company named King Digital. King Digital was one of the most profitable companies I ever owned. Like, oh my gosh, that company made so much money. It was ridiculous. They owned, I'm sure you guys have heard of it before, the Candy Crush game. And they owned a bunch of other games that were very, very popular and probably are still popular out there on mobile devices. And these games made so much money. It's ridiculous, okay? Now, I used to own that company until they ended up getting bought out by, guess who? Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard, the company behind like Modern Warfare and Call of Duty and those sorts of games, right? And I think Overwatch or something like that, like they had other games as well, right? Was it Diablo? I don't know, maybe not. But they own a bunch of different games, okay? And so then fast forward to a few years ago, Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard, right? Here's the deal. When a company acquires another company, usually they try to have this like time period, especially if the other company's healthy. If the other company was like very unhealthy and it was like an unhealthy buyout, they'll try to just gut employees right from the go. But as long as like the other company was in good financial standing and whatnot, they usually won't gut employees at first. Usually the parent company, the big dog that acquired the other company, is going to look over the whole organization and they're going to pinpoint over a year or a few years, here's where we're going to need to cut. Here's where we need to cut. We don't need those employees over there. They're doing nothing. Like, that's just duplicate tasks. Like, these people over here can handle this. They're not doing anything. That's a money suck on the business. That person's bringing down the rest of the team because they're not really an A player. They're bringing down everybody else's performance, right? And so they identify all that, and then they come in with the big cuts, right? And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people get cut from the organization and whatnot. But it's a whole process, right? It's a whole process. And sometimes I forget that they bought Activision Blizzard and that ended up actually going through, which was a rare deal that went through in the past few years.